Hello, friends. Sorry it has been so long since I've streamed. There just hasn't been good timing, or I wasn't feeling well. There's just been a lot of excuses. So, things kept getting put off, but I'm excited to be streaming today. Just seeing if everything's coming through okay. Okay, yeah, I think everything sounds good. So, but yeah, I kept thinking about how badly I wanted to stream, but it just never worked out, unfortunately. Hi, Elizabeth. Happy Monday. And a lot of the times I would have been able to stream, it was already like 7 or 8 p.m., which would have been fine if I was still on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, I just felt like it was already too late. So that is what stopped me the most, is that no, I'm still jobless. I've interviewed for several more jobs and it has not worked out yet, so it has been very sad, but I'm trying. I don't know. It's just rough. Unfortunately. But I appreciate you asking. It's been just so many, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's good that I'm like getting interviews and that I've even like gotten second interviews, and I've gotten like tests, like qualification tests for jobs and stuff. So like there's movement, but there's just a lot of people out here, and the job market is obviously not good right now. So I'm hoping so. Thanks for saying that. It just feels very sad, but I'm trying to maintain hope. Anyway, I looked, and the last time I streamed, I think this was the last book I ended up talking about, and these are all the books I added in between. Plus, I've read a bunch of more books since then. So I figured I would just talk about everything I've read. Hi, Elizabeth. My two Elizabeths here. I figured I would talk about some of the books I've read and DNF'd since I last streamed, and then add a bunch of the books that I've read and DNF'd since then, because I have not updated my Goodreads since November, and it has been starting to like stress me out that I have not done that. I'm trying to go back to that point, because I always just like take a screenshot when I finish something, so that I screenshot or a picture when I finish something. Okay, so I found where I last finished something, but then I figured I'll talk about the ones that I also added in between. I just didn't expect it to be so long in between. Okay. I'll try to rapid fire these ones. They were so long ago. Okay, so I was reading through this like novella series, not novella, short story series. This I hate that it's not showing up as a part of that, but like up here where you can like click for part of the series. But this one, but it was like a Audible and Amazon exclusive, I think. And these are the authors that were in it. So I read Hot for Slayer, and I read Space Vampire, and those are the only two I ended up reading. you can see the ratings are very low on them. I didn't really like either of them, so I haven't read any more. Maybe I'll read more eventually, but anyway, yeah. I just hope both of you are doing good. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay, rapid fire. I DNF'd Play Nice at 17%. I wasn't not enjoying it. I was just kind of a little bored and didn't love the main character. I think I would have enjoyed it fine if I had pushed through, but I had also just read a haunted house book a couple months before. I read that one, the September House, and I just feel like I was also reading them too close together. The September House I ended up reading like 2 months before, so I think that was also sabotaging it. And I think if I hadn't just read a haunted house, I read it like a month before, so I think if I hadn't also just read the September House, maybe I would have been more interested. And also, I was 17% of the way through and she wasn't even at the house yet, and I don't know. I think if I had given it more of a try, I might have enjoyed it, but I just wasn't that hooked, so I DNF'd it rather than pushing through. The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. This has been on my Goodreads since January 2014. So I'm glad I gave it a try. I only got 8% of the way in before I DNF'd it. It's a retelling / spin-off of The Island of Dr. Moreau. Right? Like, is that what it's called? And I do really like that book. It's a classic sci-fi that I enjoy, but yeah, The Island of Dr. Moreau, but it just has that unfortunate, mid-2010s YA vibe, and I just wasn't enjoying it. Had some potential romance being introduced, and I don't know, I just feel like it would have been better without it, and the characters felt kind of cheesy, and I think I would have enjoyed it more if I had read it 10 years ago, but I didn't, and so I just DNF'd it at 8%. It didn't make me upset or anything. I was just I don't think I need this. This made me really sad, though. The Most Unusual Hauntings of Edgar Lovejoy by Rowan Parrish. I was very excited because I've really enjoyed some Rowan Parrish before. This is a paranormal romance. The books that I've enjoyed by him are... by her. Sorry. I thought this was a guy. Sorry. The books that I've enjoyed by her were... There was a Christmas one, and I did really like it. The Lights on Knockbridge Lane and The Rivals of Casper Road are the two that I've read, and I really loved them, so I thought I would like this one a lot. And I just was feeling frustrated by one of the characters being totally stomped on by their family, and I just knew I couldn't read the dynamic. It was very grating to me that the family was I don't know, so blatantly disrespecting them, and just oh, you're not important, your job isn't important, your interests aren't important, and that they were just taking it. So and I'm I assume that the point of the book would eventually be that they stand up to their family, or their family eventually respects them or something, but I could not bear to read a second more of that because I was just viscerally cringing so hard. Disney High. Oh, interesting. You know what? I just made Chris watch High School Musical with me for the first time ever. Um, I mean, I've seen it before, but he had never seen it before, and I made him watch it with me. Um, oh, I know it's okay not to like a book by an author I've liked before. That happens to me frequently. I was just very disappointed that I wasn't enjoying and that I couldn't get into it. And I mean, I only gave it 7%, but you know, I'm a ruthless DNFer. But yeah, Chris was like, about High School Musical, he was like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, but it wasn't good. um, but we had fun watching it. Anyway, um, it that is interesting. I There was a whole chapter on High School Musical. Ugh. Yeah, that was so funny. Oh, I guess my sister read it. I didn't even realize. 10,000 pages. I My sister was in a production of High School Musical, like a play production, and she was Sharpay. Um, but yeah, why did I get a pickle? Oh yeah, so I had watched a video where these two girls like interviewed the guy that played Ryan, and then they were kind of just talking about some of the stuff, like the cultural landmarks of High School Musical and like a bunch of the like records it broke and stuff. And I was like, I didn't realize like quite how big it was. Like, I realized that it was like big, but I didn't realize how big it was. That it was like the highest selling record or like album in the world that year, and like things like that. I was like, really? Like, I did not realize. So I was thinking about it, and then I bullied Chris into watching with it. I bullied Chris into watching it with me, and it was fun. It was fun for me, at least. um. So after all these DNFs, I ended up doing a reread of Nice Girls Don't Have Things by Molly Harper. This is taking so long to load. First book in the Jane Jameson series. I do really love this book. I kind of go back and forth on it being like a 4-star or a 5-star. Um, right now it's a 4-star. It was a 4-star and then a 5-star and then a 4-star. Who knows? Next time I read it, maybe it'll be a 5-star again. It's definitely not perfect. And I mean, I only read it for the first time in 2019, so I think you can go into it with a modern lens and still really enjoy it, but it's definitely hasn't like aged the best. It was written 2009, so it has a lot of that 20 aughts, like it just has like a lot of like problematic humor in it, like a lot of like fat shaming and slut shaming, and like just a lot of like ickiness like baked into the language of the story. But I love Jane as a character. I'm just so enamored with her. I think she's so funny, and I just enjoy spending time with her as a character. It's just really funny and silly, and she's such a mess, and I just love it. It's about someone who, you've probably heard me talk about it before, but it's, she gets fired from her job and then ends up getting turned into a vampire, and so she's just in a new surroundings and kind of just dealing with that. Um, and I really do love it. I do like this whole series, but it's, yeah, I would definitely say to go in like expecting it to not be like necessarily like top tier by today's standards. But all of these books in this series, it's 4 books, are 4 stars for me. And then there's other books in this world that aren't following this specific character, and those kind of range for me. Some of them I don't like as much, some of them I really like a lot. It kind of just depends on like the story and the characters. But I'm very attached to Jane. Ugh. Yeah, I don't think I would be inclined to pick that up anyway. I I feel like it would be like too triggering. I'm like, I the book made you mad. Yeah. Like, I like, I don't know. And there's some things that it's like I feel like I know enough about when it happened that I'm like, I don't need to read a book about that. So I think I would stay away from it anyway, but I appreciate the heads up. I'm like, I don't think I could read a book about January 6th. And like, especially considering that they've all been like pardoned and shit. It makes me so fucking pissed off. Um, mm, I yeah, I'm trying to think about like a situation where I would be okay with reading like a whole book about that, and I think it would have to be so far removed from like where we are like politically right now that it like wouldn't be so triggering because of how like I don't know how much I feel like I'm in it right now. Um like maybe in like 20 years, 30 years. I don't know. Even then, it might still be too much. Um Strange Houses. I don't know how to say this author's name. Yuketsu, maybe? Translator Jim Ryan. This is, I feel like you've probably heard about it. It's been pretty popular, but it is a tiny little, like a novella. It's only 200 pages. It says that it's horror is the top genre, but I would say it's more of a mystery thriller, like crime book. And then horror, if it does fall into that, is like far down. I wouldn't really say that it gave me horror. It does say horror sensation, but like, I don't know. The horror was like mild. Um, I wouldn't say it gets more horrifying than other like mystery thrillers that I've read that haven't fallen into horror. Um, but like the the gimmick of this book is that there's these um like architectural like floor plans or whatever, and they're in the book, so you can kind of see the discrepancies and find out what's wrong with these floor layouts, and then kind of unravel this mystery of like these strange houses. And there is like a whole like story to it, but it's like a writer who ends up getting interested in this house, and then it kind of leads him to some other houses and stuff. I don't want to say too much because it's so short. I'd say if you like mystery, thriller, horror, to like pick it up, but it's something that I think Chris would really like. I actually bought him it for Christmas, because I know he would. I don't know. He's not good at borrowing books from the library, so I bought him a physical copy so he would read it physically. He hasn't done so yet, but I did buy it for him, and he's like, I've never heard of this. And I was like, I know, but I think you'll like it. So I liked it enough to buy it for him. I only give it 4 stars. Like, it's not like a favorite or anything, but I think Chris would really like it, so that's my endorsement. And it was really like fun to read. It was like a fun little like brain teaser. And there's more in the series. I haven't picked up the other ones yet, but I know the second one has been translated so far. I've seen it. The cover is green in the US release. Oh, maybe it's not coming out till next month, but I've seen the US release that it's like this bright green color. I thought. Oh, purple? I thought it was green. Purple? What is this? Anyway, I guess it's coming out in March. Hi, Keisha. Yeah. I genuinely feel like we're living in such a nightmare right now. I uh I cannot believe that after like that and after everything that it's like, oh yes, and this is who we voted to be our president again. Yippee. um yeah. No, thank you. Um but I'll definitely read this one when I can get it. Um I've been trying to go through and read my oldest books on here, books that have been on my TBR the longest. This had been on my TBR since September 16th, 2009, so a long time. I only got 7% of the way in before I DNF'd it. The Tenet of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I don't know. Maybe in the future, in like a dozen years or 2 dozen years, I'll want to go back and read more of the Bronte stuff, because I have read some, and I like some and I don't like some, but this one I specifically wanted to read it because one of someone who was a friend of mine, she was older, she was in her 60s when she passed, but who passed like 10 years ago. This was one of her favorite books, and I always wanted to read it because it makes me think of her. But she was like very, very religious and very moral and etc. And starting to read this, it is very religious and very moral. Like the discussions that were happening and like everything at the beginning, I was like, oh no, I do not want to read this. This does not sound fun. And also it was like very anti-Irish at the beginning. Like they were being so, it feels weird to say like race, like use the word racist for like Irish, like, but in this time period of like the 1850s, it like is racism because like Irish people didn't technically become white in the eyes of the general other white people until like the mid like 1900s, so they weren't really considered white. So anyway, they're like really awful and like being so like disgusting and saying really awful things to like one of the Irish characters in this. And like I don't know if that's like the point, if that's like the point Anne is trying to make, is that like, see how we're treating other humans and how we shouldn't be doing this, or if like that's her sensibilities. But I don't know, I just wasn't vibing with it. It was like very moralistic, but then also like very prejudiced towards Irish people, and I got 7% in and I was just like, I can't deal with this. Oof. Oof, Keisha. That's yeah, interesting for sure. I'm like, oh, that would be devastating to me. I mean, this is already kind of devastating to see how long. I'm like, well, I'm purposely trying to go read the old ones, but I'm like, yeah, this has been on here for so long. Like, this one had been on here since 2014. I'm like, specifically trying to go grab the old ones because I do not read the ones that have been here for a long time. Actually, I was not talking about the Ten of Wildfell Hall right here. I was talking about Shirley when I was talking about the racism towards Irish people. That was in Shirley, which I also tried to read and got 6% of the way through. Tenet of Wildfell Hall was very moralistic and talking about how, like, we need to be very moral and women need to be very moral and blah, blah, blah. And then this one was about, like, workers going on strike, and also they were being, like, very awful towards this, like, Irish man and just making all these, like, comments about, like, these like stereotypes towards Irishmen and stuff. Anyway, sorry, I got them mixed up because I tried to read them very close together, only 3 days apart. This one by Charlotte, this one by Anne. Hopefully that makes sense. So sorry I was confusing you if you've read The Tenet of Wildfell Hall and you're like, I don't remember that in it. Yeah. So Shirley, it was interesting. It had this, yeah, these people going on like strike, and they like kidnapped some other people, and like I don't know, it was like very odd the things that were happening. But then like all the like awful things they were saying to the other person, I was just like, this is just not enjoyable to read. And not that everything has to be enjoyable, but I don't want to feel like put off by the things I'm reading. That sounds awesome, Elizabeth. I'm definitely gonna have to look that up and read that. Okay, last few books until I start adding new things. Herculine by Grace Byron. Manhunt meets Lord of the Flies in this blistering horror debut. I didn't really like this, and so the reviews agree. I mean, I gave it 3 stars, so I guess I shouldn't say I didn't like it, but like I gave it 3 stars. I felt kind of like middling about it. I don't know who I guess that's how everybody else feels about it as well, is that most people have given it 3 stars. I guess it has a good amount of body horror in it, which is interesting. It's not stuff that I typically read, so it's pretty new to me. It's very short. It's less than 300 pages. I don't really know what to say because it's short and I don't want to give too much away, but she's kind of been haunted like her whole life by demons, and she's kind of been just having a rough time in the city, and then she decides to go live in a commune with her ex-girlfriend, and then fucked up shit starts happening, I guess is kind of what it is. And I found it okay, but it was not my favorite ever. You're Never Weird on the Internet by Felicia Day. Forward by Joss Whedon. Ugh. I read this in 2015 and I loved it. And so I wanted to do a reread to see if it still stands up. And I gave it 3 stars. So I would say no, it didn't stand up for me, but nor did I hate it. I would say it definitely has that failure of being from 2015, that I had some stuff that I was just like, I don't think Felicia would probably like phrase things this way or write things this way. And it also really, I think, suffered from her trying to be as like quirky as possible about everything all the time. But I did really enjoy reading it, and I did think it was super interesting. Her life is just very interesting. The Joss Whedon jump scare was not appreciated at the beginning. And there was like a whole chapter about, is it Gamergate or whatever, but like all the doxing and stuff that happened on 4chan at the end, which was super interesting. I did enjoy it, but I would say, like, if you're interested in Felicia Day, it's worth reading, and if you're not, then it's not. But this did inspire me to rewatch, gosh, what is it called? Oh no. The Guild. And I would say that also is, like, didn't quite stand up all of it. Like, they said some, like, slurs and stuff, and I was like, no. What? Stop it. But you know, old media. Ugh. But I did enjoy reading it. Ugh. and Recipes for the Unexpected Afterlife by Dustin J. Munden. I only got 12% in. I don't know. I just wasn't vibing with it. It's supposed to be this very cute book about a undead orc cooking and stuff, but I don't know. I was just kind of bored and didn't get into it, so I decided to put it down. It's one of the Bindery books, though, and I do want to pick up more from Bindery. I think that would be interesting to like go out of my way to read some more Bindery books. She does, yeah, she narrates it. And it is fun to hear her narration. And yeah, she does have like an interesting life. I think I really, really connected to it when I originally read it in 2015 because she was talking about her very like unorthodox upbringing and different stuff, and I was like, me too, bestie. Like I had a very unorthodox upbringing and I am too, like, I don't know. And it was just like very inspiring to see like how she just kind of like muscled her way through life and did all these things, and I was like, wow, so inspirational. Um but reading it at like, I don't know, age 30, there were just bits of it that I was like, oh, that was really cringy. So but it was still really interesting. Um okay. Oh, I feel like a lot of times when books look like this, they're from like podcasts, and it's very like this. I feel like this one is from a podcast, maybe it's not, maybe I'm making that up, but I'm like, I don't want it from a podcast, I want it from interesting. Okay, awesome, thanks for that rec. Oh, I definitely want to hear what you thought of it. Okay. And she is a really good narrator, Felicia Day. um okay, some other books that I've either read or attempted to read in the last few months. I would say I'm going to try to rapid fire them, but we all know that I can't go quickly on anything. Just trying to go through my photos, make sure I'm not accidentally skipping anything. So I tried to read Higher Magic. And it was not for me. I got 14% of the way through. I just was DNFing a lot in these months. And this was on November 15th. I don't know. I don't like having start days. I'm just gonna delete that. This is about trying to remember. Like I only DNF'd it. For fans of Emily Wilde and Babel. So it's about this teacher, and she's teaching at this magic school, and then I think some of her students start going missing. And that's what I remember. And I didn't really get into it. Courtney Floyd. Nope, never written anything else. Anyway, I got 14% of the way through. It just felt really long, I felt like, and nothing was happening, and I just was not interested. So, I don't know. I gave up. It's not that long. It's only 430 pages, but for me that feels long, I guess. Okay, next book. Okay, so I read 84 Charing Cross Road. And this one, oh wow. Just a few more people need to read it and it will get 100,000 ratings. So it's very short. It's only 100 pages or so. And it's nonfiction. It is just a series of letters written back and forth between a woman in New York City and then a used book dealer in London. And just her, inquiring for specific books and then sending them back, and then just like building this friendship, not just like one specific person, but a bunch of the book dealers there, like the lead book dealer and then some other like clerks and stuff. And I liked it. I know this is like so beloved that people really, really, really love this book. Yes. See, even you loved it. Olive gave it 5 stars. Like, people love this book and give it 5 stars all the time. And I thought I would. I just kind of struggled to get into it. I don't know why. I think it's me. I think I was just really struggling. To be quite frank, the beginning of November was the start of like a pretty bad depression for me. So I think that also was the start of it, that I was just like DNFing a bunch of stuff. I was just feeling kind of depressed and morose, and it just was, I don't know, I was just struggling, because it was like very sweet and very lovely. I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars though. Like, I didn't dislike it at all, but I didn't love it, and it doesn't feel like a 4 star. It feels like a 3 star, even though I did like it. I didn't dislike it. I read this November 18th. But if you are the kind of person who tends to like books about books, then I would recommend this. And it kind of reminded me of the what the frick is it called? Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, but a nonfiction version. It kind of feels like Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society was inspired by this book. Anyway, Elizabeth, I feel like you were on such a delay. I'm like, I added that like 5 minutes ago. Which is totally fine. You're allowed to be on delay, but I was just letting you know in case you didn't know. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It just didn't quite hit for me for some reason, unfortunately. Okay, next book. Finally, I finished Emily Wilde, which I was reading for a while because it accidentally got returned to the library when I was in the middle of it. I didn't quite finish it in time, so I was reading it for like 2 months. And I think I would give it 4 stars. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did, and I was a little sad about it, but I did really like it. And I definitely would want to continue in the series. But Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, the first book in the series. It is about this woman who is a professor, and she goes to this village to study a specific kind of fae that nobody's ever studied before, and some fucked up stuff is going on, and she doesn't really make connections with people very easily, and so she's like kind of struggling to like get into the village, and there's like a good romance in it that starts to build, and yeah, it's lovely. I like it. Oh, poop. That's okay. But I do like a fairy story. I'm a sucker for a fairy story. Yeah. And I need to go add the second book to my TBR. This is by Heather Fawcett? I had no idea. I remember trying to read that now. I did not get very far. A retelling of Anne of Green Gables. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the next book. Oh, it was a long time until I finished something else. Oh no! December 9th. And you should still be able to renew your library card, like if you can get over there, or they might even do it over the phone. But and does your library, do they do interlibrary loan, or I know some libraries call it like other things, but can you like place holds on books? Good night, Elizabeth. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you being here. So since I started tracking on Goodreads, I've tracked 2, 4, 6, 8 reads of Pride and Prejudice on Goodreads. And I'm just gonna add another one. That I read in December. Because a lot of times when I'm feeling like not reading anything, I just reread my favorite books. So even though I read it in January, I also read it in December. Because I tend to read it almost every year. And then I also at the same time was reading The Fellowship of the Rings, which is another reread. And I was reading it for a while. But then, yeah, so I was reading it from November 12th until December 10th. So I finally finished it. Yeah, Jane Austen is interesting because her publication order is not the same as her written order. Because she was like denied publishing for some of the ones that she tried to get published at the beginning. So yeah, some of the ones that she wrote when she was younger got published when she was older or even post-mortem. But yeah, I did a reread of Fellowship of the Ring, and that was delightful. I had so much fun rereading that. It felt like just so cozy. And then I moved on to The Two Towers, which I think is probably my, I don't know if it's my least favorite of the series. I don't know. Which version were you reading or listening to? Was it the one by Andy Serkis or was it the old version? Because I think Andy Serkis does such a good job. Because initially when I listened to them, I listened to the old version because Andy Serkis didn't like the Andy Serkis versions didn't exist. I listened to them in 2019 originally, but then this time I listened to the Andy Serkis version, and they were so good. I listened to them on 1.15 speed, which is like the slowest I'd listened to anything in forever. Like, so slow for me. And it was so fun. I don't know if this is technically 5 stars. I really love how the movie splits what is happening in different parts versus the travel of like Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. And the movie switching back and forth, I think, is better for me because the book like literally just splits it into 2 halves, and so it's just like that whole section, like 200 pages of just like Gollum, Frodo, and Sam, which is a lot. So I don't know if this is technically 5 stars, but I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. Maybe if I log it next time within, 2 months, I'll actually remember exactly how I'm feeling. Because I think it's technically closer to like a 4.5 or something. Okay, good, yeah. A lot of libraries, if as long as you live in the state, you can still get a card from that library, so. Okay, and then I read some children's picture books because I was picking out a book for my niece for Christmas. Um, so, Bakery Dragon by Devin L. Kurtz. This has a really high rating, which I think is maybe not deserved. Sorry, that sounds really mean. I think it was fine. And you know me, I love a children's book. I you know what the I don't know if you ever read the Goodreads, not the Goodreads. Oh, I don't know if you ever read the Redwall books, but or specifically listened to the Redwall books, but Tom Bombadil's singing and like all the singing in like Andy Serkis's singing in this re-listen of Lord of the Rings made me think of the singing in the Redwall books. Like, and all the food descriptions and everything, like, it is very obvious to me how deeply Brian Jakes was inspired by Tolkien. And you may be even able to call, and they might be able to just like update it. Anyway, but yeah, I definitely recommend Andy Serkis. I thought he was incredible. But yeah, like the art was good. I liked it, but the story was just like, okay. So I think I would give it like 3 stars maybe. I've just read so many incredible children's books that this one just felt a little lackluster. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to do it on this page. I think this one is popular like on TikTok, which is why I think it has so many high ratings. And I don't agree. It just seemed a little silly to me, the story. I don't think Redwall's necessarily worth reading as an adult or worth necessarily even giving to children now. As like, if I had children, I don't know if I would introduce them to Redwall, because there's a lot of inherited morality is kind of how it's portrayed. I don't know, it's very much like, if you are this species, then you're inherently good, and if you're this species, you're inherently bad, and you can't go against your moral dictations, and like, no matter what, if you're this species, you will always be bad no matter what, and if you're this species, no matter what, you're always good, and like, this is just the way it is, and you can't go against like nature. And I really hate that. Like, I hate it so much. It's something I didn't think about when I was a kid reading it, and then right around when I started critically thinking about books more when I was around like 17, 18, when I started reading them again at that age, it like really started icking me out. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that is such an awful message. Yeah, I mean, and like, if we think about it, it's like, I mean, Tolkien never rubs it in that way, but because we never even get to see the perspective of like the orcs really that much or anything like that, but like, we spend a lot of time with the perspective of the rats and I don't know, the weasels and the ferrets and all the bad characters, and they're all just awful and they can't go against what nature has said, which is that they're awful. And I hate that. Yeah, I think it can build to children reading it thinking that, yeah, like building like racist stereotypes and stuff. That it's like, if you're this color, it's this, or if you grew up like this, you're like this, and things. And I think that, like, if I had kids and if I did give them to them, I would have to be like very careful and like talk them through it and be like, we're reading this because the characters are fun and the story is fun and the writing is fun and the food descriptions and the battles and everything, but like, this is not good depictions of like right and wrong, and we need to have more grace for people. And people aren't just good and bad. Like, I don't know. Which is why I don't think they're worth reading as an adult if you didn't grow up with the nostalgia of them, because I feel like they're very frustrating to read as an adult, because you're just like, this is so annoying. That it's like, if you're this species, you're automatically evil, and if you're this species, you're automatically good. Anyway, okay, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. I will be right back. Audrey. Sorry, I was in the bathroom taking a little break. How are you doing? Hope all is well. Okay, when I was picking out books for my niece, I also read Weather Together, which I had never read before. I really love Not Quite Narwhal. And then, yeah, Weather Together, I don't know, I'd probably give 4 stars. These are just cute books. Not Quite Narwhal is about, you don't fit in. You're different than like everyone around you, but rather than changing yourself to fit with everyone, like you can make some like, I don't know, like everybody can still just like be friends and get along. And I don't know, I just like the messaging of this book. Weather Together had like some messaging about this Pegasus suffers from like depression, and so it's just kind of talking about like sometimes you have sad days and that's okay, and Nimbus can't stay sunny all the time. You can't bottle up the cloud, you can't ignore it because it will just grow and grow. Getting to know her cloud can make it less scary, and friends like Kelp are there to share the weather together. And I don't know, I like the messaging of these books a lot. I think they're good messaging for kids. So I'm gonna give this one 4 stars. And I like the art a lot. They're just like very bright and happy and sweet. I'm finally updating the last of my reads from last year. But then the book that I actually bought for my niece was this one. No. Little Ghost by Maggie Edkins Willis. And this one is about this ghost who this little girl moves in, and she likes Halloween, and so then he's like, maybe she'll want to be friends with me. And everybody's like scared of the ghost, and it's just very cute. Which is interesting. I was assuming you were talking about Redwall. I don't, like what I was saying before I left. I don't remember, like I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. But in Redwall, it's interesting because the girls are really badass in those books. Like they are so, Keisha, I think you might be on a big time delay as well. I like there's a lot of like female warriors in that, and I don't know, there are some things that aren't like gendered at all. Like you don't have to be A Man to Be a Warrior. Like, some of the most badass characters in all the books are women. Some of the most gentle, kind, like, demure characters are men. Like, so they're not, like, gendered. They're just, like, have very strong, like, good and evil morality in Redwall. And I just think that's weird. Anyway. This book is very cute, and this is the one I bought for my niece because she really likes this other Halloween-y book that we got for her. I'm gonna give this one 4 stars as well. I think the other book that I got was also by Jessie Sima. Not this time, but like for her birthday. Yeah, Hardly Haunted is also really cute by Jessie Sima, and this is like her favorite book, and it's a haunted house. So I was like, oh, let me get this one about this ghost. Yeah, you're a little behind. That's okay. She's a little spooky. She's a little cobwebby. Oh no, what if she's haunted? How will House ever find a family that doesn't mind being haunted? Anyway, it's very cute. So, I'm like, is Audrey still here? She hasn't said anything since. That's okay. Okay. And then I read a version of the Nutcracker that I gave to another one of my nibblings. Oops. Oh, you are here. Okay, hi. I didn't know. Because you just said hi, Giselle, when I was gone. And I came back and I was like, how long has this message been here? Oh, I was worried. Okay, so I gave this version of the Nutcracker and took a few of my nibblings, and my sister said that she really liked it and she thought it was so beautiful. And she was like, oh my gosh, she's very into the Nutcracker. So she was like, oh my gosh, I love that the art in this one, like you get the costumes you can tell are based off of, I think she said the New York City Ballet. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know. But I mean, like, I really like the Nutcracker too, but I don't know, like, the different ballets and the different, like, anything. So anyway, I'm glad that it ended up being a hit. But I liked it. I think I would give it 4 stars. I thought it was fun. And the art was really beautiful, but I did not catch that connection. Oh, you were listening to an audiobook you didn't like, so you're enjoying the break. Yeah, I do that a lot. Where I'm like not enjoying the books. I'm like, I need to find something else to stimulate me. Like, maybe I should just DNF. Ugh. All the time. Okay, so The Hating Game. I was trying to find some books to make me happy. So I was obsessed with The Hating Game when I first read it. I read it twice in like a couple days. And then I read it again twice in a couple days, like 6 months later. And then I read it again like 6 months later. And I read it a few years later, and then I haven't read it in like 5 years. So I thought it was time for a reread. I wanted to have a good time with it. And I did enjoy rereading it. I probably wouldn't say it's like an all-time favorite anymore. I would just say that my taste has changed more than it not being like an amazing book or anything. I just think I'm a little bit more of a different person that I was, but I think I don't know if I want to. I think just like when I read it originally, 2018, I would have been, I don't know, like 22-ish, 23-ish. I'm not sure. I can't do math. And then now learning that these characters are like my age now, I'm like, wow, they were so immature. And I think that was one of the things I was struggling the most with it. Was I was like, these characters do be acting so silly. And it made it a little bit hard for me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. And there were just things that I picked out this time that I wouldn't have caught the first times around. Like, I'm more conscious of things. Like, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this because I don't really remember. Like, this was like a couple months ago. I did not write down any notes or anything. This was like almost 2 months ago that I did this read. This was like December 21st. But I'm pretty sure there was like the G slur in it or something like that. There were just like some things that I was just like, ooh. And stuff. And I don't know. I think I'm gonna bump it down to 4 stars and we'll see if I read it again in the future. I don't know if I will. But I probably will because I'm just a big rereader. I love rereading, but I think it could be one of those like cozy books that I reread every now and again, but I don't think it's a favorite anymore. I haven't seen the Hating Game movie. I really thought the movie trailer looked very, very cringy, so I was never interested in watching it. And then after I read it, I did look up and watch a couple scenes from it, and I really, really hated the scenes that I saw, so definitely will never pick up. Yes, I that's why I like to keep rereading though, Audrey, because I want my favorite shelves to remain accurate. I don't want to say that a book is 5 stars and an all-time favorite. Like, even though I've read this book 7 times, it doesn't reflect who I am today as a person. It doesn't reflect, and not that I think it's a terrible book, and not that I hate it, and not anything like that, but I I don't know. I just don't want to say that this is like an all-time favorite of mine when it doesn't feel like that anymore, which is why I like to reread stuff so that I can like keep things relevant. Even if I'm not talking to anybody about it, that I can keep things relevant in my brain. And that's how I feel. I've gone back and I've done some rereads of books that I read a long time ago, and some of them have held up so well. It's incredible. So it's not like it's always gonna be a disappointment. Okay. Next book is Ella Enchanted. And like this is one that I read for the first time in like 2002 or something. I was so young when I read it. I haven't read it since 2019, which is a long time, and I love this book. I read it, I think, on one time speed. I don't think I sped this up at all when I listened to it. Like, I was just here for the ride. I was just vibing with it, and I loved it so much. And I'm giving it 5 stars. Like, I'm maintaining my 5 star. It hasn't dropped down at all. I loved every moment of it. And I think the way that it's like crafted and the characters and what it says and like everything, I just like, I stand behind it. I love it so much. I would fight for this book with my life. Like, I love this book so much. And I read it every 5-ish years or whatever, and it's maintained that. I've read it way more than 4 times. 4 times since I've started tracking stuff on Goodreads consistently with dates. But I've probably read this book like over 20 times because I read it all the time when I was a kid. And I just love it so much. I think this is my first time reading a book not sped up in, I don't know, a decade. Like, it was wild and it was so fun. I did listen to the Lord of the Rings. I was saying this before you got here. I was listening to the Lord of the Rings on 1.15 speed and 1.1 speed, narrated by Andy Serkis, which is barely sped up, but also that's like intense or high fantasy with a lot of detail to keep up with, and very intense writing and lots of description and stuff, and I didn't want to get lost. So I think listening to that a little bit slower does make sense. But yeah, this one I listened very slowly. Most of my books I've been listening somewhere around like 1.3 speed, but this one I don't think I sped up at all. I was just wanting to enjoy every second, and I loved every second. So it's not always going to be a disappointment when you go back. Okay. Oh, this one's fun. Okay, The Story of Santa Claus. This is a deep cut from my childhood. I think most people will never have heard of this book. Since it has less than 100 ratings on Goodreads, but I've read this book probably like 10 or 15 times. I have a specific sister who read this book to me every year. And I just loved it. It's like 100 pages long, so it's quite long for a picture book. And it's a ton of illustrators. It doesn't show them for some reason, because it's by Scribbler Elf, and the elves. But it's a lot of different illustrator, maybe like 5 or 10. And it's just very cute. It's Scribbler Elf telling the story of Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is this woodworker in a village, and then he ends up giving gifts to the children, and then he decides he wants to go bigger and be able to give gifts to more people, so he ends up traveling to a place where he can make a big workshop, and he ends up coming across the elves, and they decide to help him, and that's how we become Santa Claus. And it's just very I don't know. It's cozy, it's fun. I don't think it's like incredible, and I don't think it's worth necessarily going out of your way to like hunt it down. But my sister, not the sister who read it to me every year, but a different sister ended up buying me a copy last year, I think. And so I ended up, well, not last year, 2025, last year, 2024. And so then this year I read it out loud to my husband, like my sisters did to me. And it was really fun, and I enjoyed reading it. It's not like the best thing ever, but it was very fun. And the illustrations are done by different artists, so some of them are really, really beautiful, just like gorgeous. And some of them are like uncanny valley, like really fucked looking. So, it's kind of hit or miss on if the page is going to be pretty or not. But we read this together on Christmas Day this year, and it was just so fun and very cozy. And I had a good time with it. Okay, sorry. You were talking about how you loved the movie, but yeah, as an adaptation, cringe. I really do want to rewatch Ella Enchanted because I do have a soft spot for the movie, but I do not like it as an adaptation. Because the only thing they kept was that her name is Ella and that she has a curse on her. But like, they kept the names, the character names, and the curse, but they changed literally everything, and it's not a good adaptation. But I do think it's a fun movie, and I haven't seen it in, I don't know, probably since I was like 13 or something. I haven't seen it in like, I don't know, since like the aughts, probably. So I need to rewatch it. Oh, okay. And then I did a reread of one of my favorite books from last year, which was Piranesi. I read it in June. I loved it so much. Probably in my top like 3 favorite books from last year. And so Chris got me a copy, a beautiful copy for Christmas, and I ended up re-listening to it, but it was kind of prompted by the fact that now I had a beautiful copy on my shelf. Oh, why am I saying no? I did this in 2026. I'm in the new year. And January 3rd, my first read of the year, 5 stars, incredible. I love Piranesi. It was so good. I don't want to say too much because I feel like I didn't know anything about it going in, and then I just was just so enamored. But I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't know how much you know. But I love it. One of my favorite books of all time, for sure. So good. And one of the best things is that one of my favorite cross-stitch designers has this cross-stitch pattern that she designed after she read it. I don't know after why I went to 123 Stitch. It's so bad quality. Anyway, she designed this cross-stitch pattern after she read Piranesi. And so while I was listening to Piranesi, the entire time I was listening to it, I listened to it on 1.2 speed. So again, very slow for me. For the past, I was stitching on this, and I'm almost done with this like top design. Not quite, but I've spent more time on it since I finished the book. but I'm about 10% of the way done with it. There's so much left to go. But yeah, just tons of birds. It's called The Aviary, by a designer called Jet X Stitch. And I mean, totally fine, Keisha. I also don't like books with writing in it, but I do think it was fun. I'm still reading it. I'm not currently done with it, but I was reading Jane Austen's Bookshelf. Oh! By Rebecca Romney, and she's a rare book collector. A rare book collector's quest to find the women writers who shaped a legend. So I won't be going over this book today because I haven't finished it. I'll probably finish it in the next week. I'm 80% of the way through it. But I haven't been rushing it, and I haven't really been in the mood to read the last week. But it's about the women who Jane Austen read. So Frances Burney, Anne Radcliffe, Charlotte Lennox, Charlotte Smith, Hannah More. Anyway. And something she said, because it's mostly biographies and talking about these women, but a good amount is also her personal experience being a rare book collector, how she came across these editions, how she got into rare book dealing, what books mean to her, etc. And something she's talked about is how she loves and specifically goes after books that have writing in them. She loves that so much. And she's it really just, I love having something that the person who read it left their physical mark in it and gives it just lens to the character of the book. She loves reading books that have writing in it, and she also annotates her own books specifically because of that, because she specifically seeks those out. And it kind of made me think about that a little bit differently, about how what it's gonna mean to find a book in 100 years for somebody that has writing in it that was published in the year 2000 versus what it means to us right now. We're oh, that's a dime a dozen, but in 100 years it's not going to be that. And I don't know, it was just interesting. It kind of made me stop and think. So I figured I'd share that because I recommend this book anyway. Even if you haven't read Jane Austen, I think it's worth reading, but I think even more if you have, because she does talk about the books, but I love it. Yeah, totally fair. Because I also don't necessarily love other people's writing in my books, but I'm I can see why somebody would like it. She loves it and goes out of her way for it. Okay, I need to finish that book. Anyway, next book. Oh God. Okay. I read some interesting books. So there's been a book club. Oh no. This book was terrible. This is from 2023. I did not get very far in. Okay, so there's a book club called podcast called The Panelists. Possibly you've already heard of it. But they've been doing podcasts. So their first one was Pamela, which was like considered the first romance novel. Pride and Prejudice, Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, The Black Moth, and then they did a holiday special, which was Good Spirits. I have no interest in reading Pamela. I've already read Pride and Prejudice, I've already read Jane Eyre, I've already read Wuthering Heights, and I want to read The Black Moth. And so I was like, okay, I'll read it before I watch this episode. So I did. And it was certainly something. I really like Georgette Hare. I've read like 10 of her books or something, and most of them have been 4 or 5 stars. There's been some misses here and there that have been like 1 stars, but most of the time it's been high. I really like her books. She does like historical romances. The Black Moth was her first book she ever published, she ever wrote. She wrote it when she was like 16, and she wrote it by orally telling it like out loud to her brother when he was sick. So it's very like disorganized, it's very all over the place. The characters are kind of like, I don't know, just kind of wild, and you're kind of just jumping all over the place from character to character. And it's, I don't know, I would call it more like just like a historical adventure with like a romance in it. It's not like historical romance like we would think about it today. It's more like something like, I don't know, like Dumas or The Princess Bride or something where it's like, yeah, there's like a romance underlying, but it's not like a romance, you know? Anyway, it's over 100 years old, and I think this girl was so young when she wrote it, but this book is like a hot mess. When I started reading it, I almost put it down instantly because I was just like, what the hell is this? But it's Georgette Hare, so I persisted, and I actually did end up having like a fun time with it. I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars, but I do not recommend this book at all unless you're like a Georgette Hare stan. Unless you want to read every Georgette Hare book, I do not recommend picking this up because it's not good. It's really not good. It's so silly. So it is about this guy who he and his brother are playing cards. His brother cheats, but he takes the blame. And so he gets banished from society, and he decides to go become a highwayman. So he is off being a highwayman. His brother's living the lap of luxury. And then there's like this other guy who's like this duke. And he is known as the devil because he's really evil and rakish. And he's always like deflowering maidens and stuff. And he's interested in this girl, but she's not interested in him, which just makes him more interested in her. And so he tries to kidnap her to go make her his wife. But the highwayman, who's actually a nobleman, just pretending to be a highwayman, rescues her. And she has to take care of him because he gets injured. So there's like a nursing scene and stuff. And then also, the Duke's sister is married to the brother of the noble highwayman. So that's kind of like all the connections. It's very silly. It's very over the top. And yeah, like I said, I don't recommend, but it was like a fun read. I would say the most frustrating thing is that, like, it did make me very mad that it's like this man is like literally like threatening to like rape this woman. This Duke is threatening to rape this woman, and they're like, we can't let anyone know though because he's a Duke and it would ruin his reputation. It's like, fuck off. Like, you do not need to be protecting men. Like, I don't know, just like, ugh. It was very, anyway, it was an interesting book. It was very fun though. I had a really good time reading it, to be honest. Because I just decided to like turn off my sense and just be along for the ride. And I read this January 8th. But it was a hot mess of a book, and I'm giving it 3 stars. Okay, and then I read a terrible book. This was like self-inflicted torture. Praise by Sarah Kate, book 1 in the Salacious Players Club. This I initially put on my TBR because Riley from Riley Marie talked about how much she really loved this. This is like one of the worst things I've ever read in my whole life. And it felt like torture on my brain the entire time I read it. But then also, I've just didn't know what else to read. And so I just read it anyway. And that might have been a mistake. I can't believe this has 250,000 ratings. I cannot believe that. And a 4 stars. I cannot believe that. Oh, it was so bad. The writing was not good. The characters were not good. Everything was not good. I very much did not enjoy this at all. And it was... oh no. Anyway, it's a ex-boyfriend's dad. I regret reading it. And that's what I'll say. I did finish it though. But also, I regret that as well. I wish I had just DNF'd it because it was not... I did not enjoy it. And I'm giving it 1 star. It is my least favorite thing that I've actually finished in a long time. But then I decided to cleanse my brain by doing something fun for myself. and reread Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, which was so fun. This is probably my second favorite Jane Austen. I would say Pride and Prejudice is my first favorite, but then this is my second favorite. Okay. Pride and Prejudice number 1. Northanger Abbey number 2. Persuasion number 3. And then Emma. And then Sense and Sensibility. And then Mansfield Park. And if we're including Lady Susan, which most people don't, but if we do, that would probably go either above Mansfield Park or above Sense and Sensibility, but it's been a long time since I've read it. Anyway, that's my ranking. And this was so fun to reread. I hadn't read it since 2020, which is so sad. And this was so fun to reread. I just had the best time. I love it. And what has kind of made it extra fun in my head is that I read this and then like really loved the experience. Obviously, it's one of my favorite books. But then I started reading the Jane Austen's bookshelf book, and so much of this book has quotes from Jane Austen or from Northanger Abbey in it, because Northanger Abbey is the book whose heroine is a reader. Like, that is her main hobby, is like she loves books, she loves reading, and so that's the book where this author ends up getting a lot of the quotes about, like, she knows that Jane Austen was reading these books and has like reference points for them. And so a bunch of the quotes are from Northanger Abbey. So it was very fun having just read this and having it fresh in my mind, and then reading Jane Austen's bookshelf and being like, oh yeah, I recognize that quote right off the bat, as soon as it started going, because I was like, oh yeah, I just read that. Okay, next I have a DNF. I think my first of the year. A Place for Everything, The Curious History of Alphabetical Order by Judith Flanders. So this book has like Palestine erasure in it, and I do not like that. So I'm not going to read a book that has that. She was like talking about the history of like the alphabet, and was talking about like different places where things were arising, and then she was like, yeah, in the year, like, I don't know, I'm just making up a number, but something BC, like in the year like 500 BC in Israel. And I was like, the fuck do you mean? Like, no. Anyway, so then I was looking at her biography. Moved to Montreal, Canada, when she was spent her childhood there, apart from a year in Israel in 1972, where she signally failed to master Hebrew. Okay, well, I'm not surprised that she is denying Palestine's existence, so don't want to read anything by this author. I didn't go through and delete books just because I didn't have the wherewithal in that moment, but I did put the book down immediately. And I think these are the only two that are on my TBR. I've never read a book by her. but I will be deleting the other books off my TBR by her. The other book I had was The Invention of Murder, so you don't claim her. Anyway, so don't love that, but I mean, I was just not expecting that. I was like, I just wanted a nice little book about alphabetical order, a curious history of alphabetical order. I was like, I didn't think that was gonna be the place. I need to figure out how far I got into this though, because I was an hour and 11 minutes in. It happened a little bit before that, and I listened a little bit further, probably like 10 minutes further, because I was kind of just like in shock. I was just like, what? And I kind of started looking stuff up while it was still playing. So I don't think I really registered what was happening, but that's how far I said I got. So I don't know. What is that called? Like a audiobook percentage calculator? Time listened is an hour and 11 minutes and 18 seconds. I don't know. I can't trust reading anything by this author now because it just feels so like, oh, you're purposely leaving out stuff. You're purposely, like, I know everybody has their biases and everybody's gonna tell stuff in a biased manner. We can't help it. We are humans. But you're, like, very purposely, like, I'm sure you got information that was one way and you were purposely twisting it and changing it to fit your agenda because you don't want to acknowledge the people whose, like, land it actually is. It's fucking weird. $11%. Okay. I feel like I should say something in it. I don't know if I should say, like, and I did try to look up and say if, like, anything had been said by her, but I don't know. I didn't see anything. So I don't know if I should say, like, Palestine erasure or like Zionist author, or I don't know. How do you spell erasure? That can't be right. Is that right? I think that. Oh God. Maybe definition. Yeah. Okay. Should I say Palestine erasure pro-Israeli author? I don't know. Should I say Zionist author or pro-Israel author? Probably Zionist. I don't know. Ugh. That's author? Is that how you spell author? I feel like I just have forgotten how to spell. Yeah. Sorry, you guys must think I'm so stupid. You know when your brain just stops working? Me every day. Oh, I didn't even mark it as read. Let me save that and then. Oh, it did save. Okay, good. Anyway, and that was on the 20th of January. Not a nice New Year surprise for me. It was like such a jump scare. It was like, ugh. There was another book earlier, or last year, that was also, I don't know, Israeli. And I was like, what the fuck? Stay out of my books. Maybe I'll do a comma. And I have been excited for this book. I mean, I bought it secondhand, but I remember buying this copy probably a couple years ago. No longer getting that deleted off. The Invention of Murder. Get off. Okay. Okay, and then I DNF'd Romancing Inventor. Which I was very sad about. I felt certain. So I felt certain I would like this book. I really, really, really love the first book in the Parasol Protectorate book, Parasol Protectorate series, and then it kind of goes downhill for me because I think her partner is a piece of shit, but I just read the book as a standalone and then I enjoy it. But I was like, surely I will like a lesbian novella in this series. No, it stressed me out so much. Like, she's getting like sexually assaulted, sexually harassed, like the entire time. Like, someone's constantly groping her, grabbing her, like bruising her as they're like groping her butt and pinching her, and like it was like very like triggering, and I haven't even been, thankfully, like sexually assaulted. It was very stressful. I could not enjoy this book and I could not get through it. She's a maid in a house, and then the person who is like harassing her is like an upper footman, and he just thinks that he can do whatever she wants because she's below him, and there was just like so much of that in it. I just couldn't get through it. Plus, she's the fucking horniest character I've ever read before, like to a cringe degree. She, like, I don't know, it was really intense that she's just like, I was doing these calculations, but then I look up and I see her, and oh my god, she's so hot. I'm just so horny and hot for her. Oh my god, oh my god. And I'm like, calm down. She's really, really horny all the time, and I was just like, please stop. No, stop. So, those two things together, I just could not get through it, and I was really disappointed because I was certain I was going to love it, and I did not. I don't know. A bunch of my friends liked it or loved it, and I seem to be the only person who didn't. Okay. I really pushed myself. I really, really, really tried to get through it because it's only a novella. It's only like 5 hours. And I could not. Let me look up exactly how long it is from my calculator. I got 60% of the way through. And I fear Gail Carriger just may not be the author for me because I've just struggled with a lot of her stuff. Ugh. And that makes me so sad because I love Soulless so much. Soulless I gave 5 stars, and then this series was just going downhill for me slowly. I ended up DNFing Heartless. I DNF'd Etiquette and Espionage. And I was like, oh, surely my way forward in this series is to read some of the novellas. But I did not like them. So, and I read some of the manga, but I mean, I like them, but they're not like my favorite things ever. I wonder if it's even worth reading some of her more new stuff if I didn't love that. I don't know. And I read something in 2020 that I gave 3 stars. Oh, I don't know. I love Soulless so much, I feel like I'm very biased towards wanting to continue. Okay, but then I read something fun. Paladin's Hope by T. Kingfisher. Like, probably out of living authors, probably my favorite author. Maybe my favorite author of all time. I don't know. Love T. Kingfisher. Been putting this book off for like 4 years because after this one, the next book wasn't out, and I didn't want to not, like, when I added this one to my TBR, the next one wasn't out. Now I feel like I'm not going to want to read this one because then the next one's not out. So, very sad about that. But love T. Kingfisher. And I read this and I really liked it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. There's some interesting world building in this one that is kind of related mostly to this series, the Clocktar War series, and that was really interesting. And I've been really into labyrinth books recently, and this kind of has a labyrinth in it, so all of that was really good, and I really liked the characters. It wasn't like an all-time favorite. I think this one is definitely my favorite out of all of them. But I did really like it, and I'm excited to read the next one. I love this series. Although something sad that I saw pointed out recently. Yeah, on this one is that this character is whitewashed on the cover of Paladin Strength, is that he's described as, in the book, is like 2 shades lighter than leather gloves or whatever. that he's like definitely a brown man, and he's very white looking here, and people are understandably mad about that. So I am sad that in the traditionally published books, because these were self-published originally and then picked up by Orbit, but in this traditionally published UK cover, that they whitewashed the main guy. Not good. Okay, but for Paladin's Hope, I'm gonna throw in. Okay, so January 24th. And a 4-star rating. But then then there's only one more book in this series, and then I have to stop, and that makes me sad. Which is why I put off reading this book for 4 years. But okay, so where to start with Tiki and Fissure? It's hard because it kind of just depends on what you want. Do you want a standalone? Do you want the start of a series? Do you want a fantasy? Do you want a horror? So I think there's different places to start depending on what you are interested in. Let me grab a couple. I think there's a couple different options though, depending on what you were going for. Yeah, there's a lot of options depending on what you want. I think and I still haven't read her newest books because I've just been putting them off. Sometimes it's hard to get myself to read her books because then I'm like, then they're over. Okay, so these are my options. The Seventh Bride is young adult with a touch of horror, and it's a fairy tale retelling of Bluebeard. And it is on the shorter side. But you know me and my newer aversion to YA. That has like been building and building and building, and even though that was already a thing in 2022, I still really liked this despite that. So I'm like, this is a standalone. It's not connected to any else of her stuff. So if you just want like a straight standalone, not connected to anything else, that is fantasy and YA, you could start here. And it's like darker. If you want a straight fantasy that's YA and not connected to anything else, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. But this one is fun and cozy. It's about this girl who has like baking magic, and she has these little like a sidekick gingerbread man that she like animates. And this one is very fun. I really loved this one. I read this one in 2022 probably as well. 2023. January 5th, 2023. Barely scraped into the new year. I think someone gets like murdered in her bakery shop, and then she's kind of trying to figure out what's going on. So it's like a little bit of like a mystery element too. So those are the YA ones. The other standalone that is like fantasy with like, it says horror. It's kind of maybe horror elements, but I wouldn't say it's straight horror, is Nettle and Bone. And it has like this very like fairy tale fantasy setting and characters, is Nettle and Bone, but it's not like an actual retelling or anything. And there's also like a really good sidekick animal companion in this one too. Yeah, this one is one of her most popular for sure. 150,000 ratings almost. I don't remember this one super well. This is definitely one of the ones that has stuck with me the least. I did really like it. I need to read it again. I think I would like it more on reread. I think I was in a little bit of a weird headspace when I read it, to be honest. This is such a good way of saying that. That's kind of what I was trying to say, but this person said it much better. T. Kingfisher uses the bones of fairy tale to create something entirely her own. And that's like, yeah, it's like it has this fairy tale quality, but then it's like not actually based on anything, and it just kind of has that like vibe. So yeah, I really like that. And then the last standalone is The Hollow Places. This is just straight horror. It's cosmic horror, and it's kind of like maybe like the back rooms, but it's this woman who is like taking care of the shop below her uncle's house, and then she finds this like hole, and it leads into this like other dimension, and it's like very creepy, and I loved this one so much. I really want to reread it. This is like at the top of my list to reread. I read this in 2023 as well. I just got so sucked into this one, and this is definitely my favorite horror, just straight horror by T. Kingfisher, and probably just in my top like 5 horrors in general. Really, really love this one. And then, so those are like if you don't want anything connected to anything else. But then if you want something that is like the start of a series, this is what I would get into. Is, oh, these are so much, that's so much of a better cover. Okay, so these are the 2 places to start. So she has this series, this world called The World of the White Rat. And it's a bunch of like little micro series and that are all connected. I wanted to pull it up. Here it is. The World of the White Rat. So far it's 8 books, but there's definitely going to be more coming out in it. And I would say these are 2 okay places to, or the 2 best places to start in it. So The Clockwork Boys is the first book in the Clock Tower War series, and it's only a duology. So I think it's a really good place to start, and I think it's also a really good place to start because it's the first book in this series, and it is like really setting the bones for this world. I think it was more, so it came out in 2017. I think it was more original when it first came out, because I feel like in the last 5 years I've heard of more plots that sound similar to this, but it's like people from different walks of life. So it's like a paladin, an assassin, a forger, and a scholar, and they've all been forced into this mission together, and their mission is to figure out how to stop the Clockwork Boys, and what they are these giant clockwork structures that just like decimate cities and are almost indestructible, and people don't know how they're powered, how they function, where they're coming from, and mechanical soldiers from a neighboring kingdom. And yeah, so this is like the start, and it's only a duology, so I think it's really easy to get into, and it really starts off this world, because it does make a lot of references, like, so when you're reading these, like, it makes a lot of like Paladin's Hope talks about the clockwork mechanics of this, and like references get made throughout, so I think it's a good base to start with. But I also think you could start with Sword Heart if you just want like a fantasy romance start, rather than just like a fantasy adventure of like these 4 people working together who don't like each other necessarily, or all like forced there together and stuff. But Sword Heart, I'm sure you've heard of the most, is, or one of the most, that she is being forced into a marriage with like her cousin, because they're trying to get the estate from her that someone said like left to her, and she's like, I would actually rather kill myself than marry you. So she pulls out a sword to do it, and then a man pops out and he's like, hello, I'm here to serve you. And she's like, what the fuck? And he's there to serve, and so she's like, okay, well, get me the fuck out of here then. And yeah, it's a man tethered to a sword. And yeah, I really love this series, or this book. I really liked this book. I give this book 4 stars. But when I say I love this series, I mean The World of the White Rat. I've read all of them except for this last one, because I've been putting them off because she hasn't been releasing more in this Paladin series, and I think there's supposed to be like more of them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there isn't more. Maybe it's just the 4 and I'm wrong. Anyway. And then Daggerbound, there's supposed to be another book to Sword Heart coming out later this year in August. Anyway, I love T. Kingfisher. I haven't loved every book I've read by her. I've like DNF'd some of her books, but of the ones that I finished, everything has gotten 3 stars or above, I think. Which I think is impressive. I could talk about T. Kingfisher all day. I also really loved, now if we're just talking about ones that I loved the most, I thought Sorceress Comes to Call was a great Goose Girl retelling. I really, really loved that one. I really liked Thornhedge. A House with Gold Bones, I really liked as a horror novel. I personally did really like the Twisted Ones. Not as much as the Hollow Places, but that was a really good horror. I do be loving all her books. So anyway, those are my thoughts. And then the only book by her that I DNF'd was 9 Goblins. But she also wrote it in 2013, or published it in 2013, and it's very different than the rest and has like a lot of like very crude humor, and it just wasn't my vibe, so I just set it down very early because I knew it wasn't for me. But everything else I'm obsessed with. Oh, also, I've read I haven't read much from her real name because T. Kingfisher is a pseudonym. I haven't read, Vernon. I don't know why I spelled that so wrong. I haven't read much from her pseudonym. I've only read Castle Hangnail, but I did give it 4 stars. I really liked that from her real name as well. I haven't read anything else though, so I assume I would like other things that she's written under her real name, but I just haven't gotten into them because it's like mostly children's books, mostly like very young children's books. So, and she's pretty much stopped publishing. But Castle Hangnail I thought was so fun. It's about this witch who decides to become the evil witch over this castle, but she's like 13, and it's so cute. I recommended that one a lot at some of the bookstores I've worked at. Okay, trying to find the next book. Okay. We're almost there. Okay, so you know how I was talking about Georgette Hare and The Black Moth? Well, Georgette Hare was 16 when she wrote that. She got it published when she was like 20 or something. So then she was like, I want to write a sequel, but I feel like it will be hard to write a sequel because she wanted it to be about the devil Duke. And he's like very irredeemable, and she's like, but I want to redeem him. And so she decided to write fan fiction of her own book, basically, and it got published 5 years after The Black Moth got published. It is a lot of people's, so she changed all the characters' names, tweaked them a little bit, and wrote fan fiction of her own book. So instead of the Devil Duke, it's Satanus. But like all these characters are the same relations. Like his sister is still married to like his sister is still married to that guy, and then his brother is married to that girl that he tried to kidnap, and like it's still all the same relations. It's very interesting. Anyway, this book was very fun to read, but I had to turn off my brain and kind of read it like, I don't know, again, like something like The Scarlet Pimpernel or something. Like, it is not like a romance. I could not read it like a romance because it was creepy and gross. He is like, I don't know, over twice the age of the person he is interested in. He's like in his 40s and she's like 19 or something, and he calls her infant the whole time. He's like, oh, look at you, infant. Ooh! I wanted to vomit the whole time thinking about it. Every time I called her infant, I was just like shuddering in disgust. It's so gross. It was not good as a romance at all, I don't think. But it was very fun to read if I just like thought about it as like again, like a kind of like swashbuckling adventure. Baroness Orcsey or whatever the fuck her name is, and like just kind of like looked at it under a different lens. I had a good time with it. If I read it as a straight romance between him and this girl that he called infant the whole time, I could feel the bile in my throat. So I am gonna give it 3 stars. I did have a fun time with it, and I think the context behind it was very interesting. And I'm so glad I read the other book first, because getting to like compare the characters, compare all the different things, I think was so interesting. because I almost read this one before I read The Black Moth, and I think that would have been a big disservice to it, but it was not good. It was not good. And I don't recommend either of these Georgette Hare books. And hearing this, you may say, why read Georgette Hare at all? And to that I say, I love Georgette Hare. These were just some of her very earliest books when she started, and I very much recommend The Grand Sophie is very good, and also I very much recommend Cotillion. Cotillion is the one that made me fall in love with Georgette Hare. I would say it's very complicated. I think you do have to read it very slowly to follow all the characters and everything going on. It is a lot, but I think it's worth it. But if you want something a little bit more straightforward, The Grand Sophie, and I think her books are so witty, and I just like laugh out loud reading them, and they're so great. These just happen to be two not great ones back to back. But I knew that going in, that they probably wouldn't be. Okay, we're into the current month. Let's see. Oh, okay. I'm like, oh yeah, books that I actually remember reading. So many of these feel like so long ago. Oh yeah, this book is definitely not on my TBR. Okay, so Exiles by Mason Coyle? I don't know. I read this book because Books and Lala was talking about it and how she really loved it, and she gave it 5 stars, and I just have to say, what the fuck? Why did you love this book? That was so stupid. I did not like it. I don't know. I don't know what to give this. Horror, sci-fi, mystery, thriller in space. It is short. It's only 200 pages. It was a 5-hour audiobook. A locked room mystery. I don't know. I think I might give it 2 stars. It just hasn't. Every time I've thought about it, I've just been like, what a sad meh book that has felt like. Like, I've just not felt any. I don't know. I didn't feel excited or interested while reading it. I haven't felt excited or interested after reading it. I just have had, I don't know, nothing. I don't know, nothing interesting to say about it. But it's about the space crew that is going to Mars. It's only 3 people. 3 people. The habitat has already been built for them by these robots, but then like the day before they get there, the robots go offline, and so then they're like freaking out about like what's going on. And then when they get there, everything is kind of devolved into chaos, and yeah, it was certainly interesting. I just wanted something comforting after that, so I ended up doing another reread of House of Many Ways, which I have read this at least 8th time since I started recording it on Goodreads, but Goodreads decided to delete all my rereads. So fuck you, Goodreads. And they completely deleted it off my shelves, which is rude. So I'm starting over from scratch. And I'll leave it in there as 5 stars. I don't know if it's technically a 5 stars. I mean, I read it all the time, so I guess it is. But also, it's a frustrating read. I find one of the characters very annoying. But I love Charmaine, and Charmaine has my heart. Okay, so this is another example of rereading books and it being good. So I haven't read this book since March 16th, 2016. So it has literally been 10 years since I've read this book. I initially gave it 4.5 stars. My Oh my gosh, I gave such a detailed review. Holy shit. Okay, let's. Oh, no, not March 16th. January 5th, 2017. So only 9 years. Okay. 4.5 stars. I adored this book so much. First off, the writing, I loved it. I literally found myself laughing out loud at points, probably multiple times, which doesn't happen often for me. And the characters were also a delight. I loved them all. They were all very distinct and felt like different people. It's also refreshing to find a retelling that not only has Beauty have sisters. I love Disney's Beauty and the Beast, but I blame them for this key plot often being left out of retellings nowadays, but that they were also good people. So often they're these 2D, rude, spoiled brats, but they weren't in this one. They were wonderful, distinct people, sisters who aren't exactly alike, but who care about each other and look out for each other and step up to do their part when things go wrong. I also enjoyed that at least the first third of this book happens before the Beast in the castle, that we get to see their lives, and that wasn't the whole point of the story. I loved Beauty. She was such a wonderful, sweet character who really tried to love and understand people. She has a big struggle through the book about her self-worth, which was beautiful and completely relatable. It even made me cry. All in all, I just found this book and its message beautiful, and it's one of the best retellings I've ever read. Holy shit! I really just popped off back in 2017. I did not remember writing this. Okay, just grammatically fixing a couple things. And I stand by all of this. Like 100%, 100%, 100%. I was really worried to reread this because I don't really trust past Giselle. I think that they are yeah, not to be trusted, to put it bluntly, that their taste is suspect, that their judgment is suspect, that, I don't know, everything is wrong. And I was really worried about rereading this because of that, but I really liked this. I don't know that it's a 5-star, but nor was it a 5-star the first time I read it. It was a 4.5 star, and I think that's what I'm still gonna give it now, is 4.5 stars. I loved the writing. I think that is the thing that shines throughout this. I laughed so many times throughout this. The writing is really witty, and it's not necessarily a very funny book. It's not funny. It's just very witty. There's so many times where it's just like the way things are phrased, I'm just like, oh, that was such a good sentence, or the way that turn of phrase just like made me chuckle, because I just, oh, that is so, yes. Obviously I'm not a writer. I think that's great, Keisha. I wish I did write down stuff more. Because I'm like, this is so on point. I can't believe I wrote this down. And it's nice because I'm like, that is so articulate for exactly what I'm feeling right now. I should do that. it's just so much effort. um, I would say that I honestly, the part that I didn't like the most is like the actual Beauty and the Beast retelling point, because I'm like, I love the family dynamic, I love all of that. I actually really enjoyed a lot of her part at the castle. I love spending time with her. I love, she's very into gardening, and I loved all that. But then like the actual like romance and that part of it, I think is what held me back from it being 5 stars before, is like the development of the romance and believing their romance. I believe is what held me back before, and I think that is what holding me back this time too. But I think I'm gonna leave it at 4.5 stars. I really agree with Past Me, and maybe I can trust Past Me more than I thought, because I really ate with that. That is exactly how I'm feeling, and this makes me feel less afraid of rereading old books that I really enjoyed before, because I was so nervous about reading this, because I was like, oh, it's just not gonna, I'm not gonna like it as much as I did the first time, and then I'm gonna be like, oh no. But it was actually great. Yeah, I'm really bad at setting aside time for specific tasks. uh i never I never follow through on it. uh I relate, Audrey. uh okay, I think that was the last book I finished. I am currently in the middle of like 2 books, and then I'm also starting some other rereads, so um maybe maybe I'll actually read some stuff. I don't know. I feel like since I finished this, which I guess it's only been less than a week. Now it's been a week, but since I finished this, I haven't really read very much. So I need to do that, but I just haven't felt like it. But I feel like I've done a pretty good job. I don't know. I I haven't not read anything since I last was on here in October, which is what sometimes has been happening when I take breaks. Um, some books I'm thinking about reading is obviously Jane Austen's bookshelf. I was thinking about picking up Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld. I technically have, but I'm only 3% into the audiobook, so we'll see if I continue with it or get further. Between the Devil and the Duke was the first romance book, I think, that I ever gave 5 stars. So I need to do a reread of that. It was in 2017, and I'm trying to not let over 10 years go in between reading 5-star books. I want to stay on top of reading 5-star books. I want to pick up Hidden Figures. Ah. By Margaret Lee Shetterly. I randomized my Goodreads shelf, my want to read, and then I was like, I'm just gonna stop when I see the first book I think I'll give 5 stars. And it was Hidden Figures, and I was like, hey, it's Black History Month. What a good time to read this anyway. About Black women helping NASA. So, I would like to read that one for sure this month. And then I'm also doing a reread of Dealing with Dragons for like the 30th time. Oops. Which I haven't read since 2021. So it's been a long time, but I need to do a reread of this one. So those are kind of my thoughts for the next like week or so. Is what I plan on reading. I haven't put any of my star ratings on Storygraph. Like, even if I add the books, I'm not good at putting the star ratings, which is like the whole point is the graphs, so I need to do that. I'm like been neglecting it on there and only been keeping up with it on Goodreads, so I have to transfer a lot of that data over. Ugh. I only read the first book in the Ugly series, and I never continued. Okay. I think I'm just gonna actually wrap it up right here, because I'm like, I have been going for 3 hours. I should probably go eat some food. But hopefully I will be on sooner than a few months. The next thing I want to do to organize my Goodreads shelves, I'm really close to hitting 3,000 books read. So that will be cool. I'm definitely going to do that this year, which is wild. That feels like such a huge milestone. But something I want to do is when I go through my want to read shelf, I know I've been going through them by oldest to newest for how long they've been on my TBR. And I've been going through and reading some of the oldest ones. I want to keep going through and reading some of the oldest ones. But I also want to go back over some of the oldest ones that I've already gone through, and I want to pull out the ones that I think will actually be 5 stars. Because a lot of these, I don't know if they'll be 5 stars. Like, none of these, I don't know if they'll be 5 stars. But the ones that I think will actually be 5 stars, I want to put on a special shelf so that I can just like have a 5-star predictions, because I never do those, and I think that would be interesting. Like City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett, I think could be 5 stars because I've really loved this author before. Anyway, so that's something I want to do as well. Okay, anyway, that is it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. But yeah, y'all are the best. Good night. And hopefully I'll be back in the next few weeks. Life has just been a lot, but hang in there. Life is worth living. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Good night. I appreciate you being here for me all the time. Mwah!